Do you know the difference between spruce and pine?
No.
Anyway, it's the needles. So this is spruce. You see the needles are growing the full length of the small branches. Okay, individual. They're individually coming out. And pine tree.
There it is.
So that's a pine. Is this a pine? Anyway, the needles are, of course, much longer, shaggier. This isn't what I was exactly looking for. Anyway, I think this is red pine. Or maybe it's a spruce. Maybe this is spruce too, because the pine, the needles are in bundles, in groups. Whereas these are all individual. This might be a different kind of spruce.
Right.
These were planted. These were planted maybe, well, they're way different ages, right? So there may be some different generations of planting going on here. Like these big guys are probably 80 years, 70, 80 years, the big ones. But the rest of them, maybe 30 years. I mean, we could count the rings on the stumps.
The reason why the farm manager didn't clean this up after the ice storm was because all that deadfall was good for the forest.
Well, yes. It's not a forest, it's a plantation, but certainly allowing dead trees to rot in place adds organic matter to the soil and creates generations of fungus and everything else that the trees need. Yes, it sounds more like an excuse for not doing what's necessary. What are these trees doing? They're these ones that are hung up and lying here, they're adding nothing to the organic matter in the soil. They might sit there for another 50 years like that.
These trees all need to come down because they are old and dying, and the neighbor told me that a couple of them already fell on their roof and their propane tank.
Oh, well, yeah.
And if you go and look at these big ones in the back there, they're dying to almost the top.
They are, yeah, which is you wonder why. Why are they dying? You know? They're not obviously diseased. Anyway, the thing would be, to get a forester in here and to have him walk through. And you know who's a forester? Is Owen.
Let's invite them.
Owen's,
and he is also one to tell us about how to regenerate this.
We should do a walkthrough with him. I'm sure we'd learn a lot. I would certainly learn a lot because my knowledge is minimal when it comes to forest and forest management.
But so you agree with me that saying, oh yeah, it's good for the forest is just an excuse not to do the work?
That's an excuse. Generally speaking, yes. Leaving as much deadfall in the forest is a good thing. Because eventually they do rot, they do decay, they do add organic matter, But why are you growing these? What's going on here? You have to also look at what the purpose of this area of the farm is. What's the intent here? I mean, if the intent is to grow valuable trees, a lot of these are so damaged or any tree, when you see like a spruce, where it goes up so high and then a branch comes, then the top does kind of this. that's where the top of the tree broke off when it was much younger. The highest surviving branch became the leader of the tree, right? Well, that's not a marketable, eventually these trees will become lumber. You know, they'll be saw logs. And a tree like that is basically trash. It's of no use for lumber,
Yeah.
period, end of story. So those trees should all come out now to give the other trees that may have, you know, be in fairly good shape a chance to survive. The other thing is, this is the spacing between trees. You know, 2 meters is about the minimum spacing between trees so that they can achieve their full growth. So anything that's closer than that should come out, and you leave the best. There's an old saying, take the worst first. Okay? You take the dead, diseased, and damaged trees out. You leave trees like this, you can leave as a seed tree, you know, and it will, you know, it's a mature tree, so it's producing lots of mass, which is the pine cones. I'm not seeing a big crop this year on it unless they've already dropped. Anyway, and you leave that, and it will, you know, seed other trees. They're in really rough shape. Really rough shape. You know. Anyway, lots of dead trees.
And tall enough to drop on this house.
Well, yeah. And this one, that, you know, this tree that is not a tree like even this size. You know, it's basically dead. Lost its top. You know, it is dead.
This tree could drop on that house.
Yeah, or at least, or on the fence and take the fence down. Yeah. I mean, there's other things growing in here that a forester would consider weed trees, like this guy, right? And that one growing there. But somebody, a forester, would come in here and he would just mark everything that needs to come out. I mean, what you would leave, like this is what is good for the forest floor, is something like this. You know.
And there's already creatures.
Well, this is
working on this.
This was a woodpecker. Did that probably a while ago, a long time ago.
Yeah, but if a woodpecker does that, he does that
because the tree is harboring a lot of insect life. Anyway, so here's another one. You can see the top is broke on it. This one's dying. That one's dead. That one's dead. Totally dead.
So leaving all of this is what?
It's just can't be bothered, don't care, aren't paying attention. You know, that's, I mean, if they were hardwood, at least you could say, well, you could harvest it as firewood. But spruce is hardly worth, you know, hardly worth burning. If they're nice and straight, they could be milled, still be milled, if they're not, you know, if they're not too far gone and turned into, you know, timbers. You know, like a 4x4, 6x6.
What about fence posts?
No.
No?
No, spruce is useless as fence posts. Rots very quickly in contact with the ground.
Oh, okay.
That's why they use cedar. The best fence posts are cedar, black locust, or oak. They all last a long time in the ground. But spruce and pine would rot, especially at the ground level, where there's a combination of moisture and oxygen. In a few years, they just rot out, and then they're done. Even cedar. I mean, you've taken down lots of cedar fence rails that you know are probably 100, 150 years old minimum, and they're still in good shape as long as they're off the ground.
Oh, there's a quantity somewhere in there, not off the ground, of course.
A few hours work would at least take out the ugly stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The things that are where the tops were broke off like 10, you know, whatever that ice storm was, 5 years ago or something. They went down, or
7 years ago.
7 years, anyway. Just a few hours work, and it would look a lot better, and then you can come back in at a more leisurely pace and take all the dead stuff down, you know. And you may even find somebody that is interested enough in firewood, they would take it down and take it away, you know, even though it's not very exciting as firewood. It's good for campfires, things like that. There's not a huge amount of heat content, but you know, if you're hanging around and you don't mind feeding the stove every 20 minutes, you can burn this stuff, you know what I mean? You just keep throwing it in, it burns nice, it doesn't leave much ash. So, anyway, I'm going to get back to what I'm doing, okay?
Okay, darling.
I'm just going to keep going here till I've had enough, you know? There's no shortage of work in this forest, but I'll do along the alley first, and then I'll come back and work in this area. My aim is to take down the broken trees, you know, just to make it look better. Even if I don't cut them up, I'll just fell them.
Yeah, and I can do cutting up once they're on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, don't be too curious, pup.